I think one of the main things about sports or anything in that kind of a realm is that it's not just about the medal. It's not just about the time. It's a whole life situation, right? The reason I keep going back to swimming is not because, oh, I was in the Olympics, because I wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I was NCAA champ, because I wasn't. It was community. It was a group of friends. It was, learning responsibility, learning how to deal with, things that were upsetting, how to be happy for yourself, but then comfort others who aren't, that all of those things.
All right, hello everyone. We are back with another episode today. Today, for the first time, we have Coach Kim here with us. For the past many years of you been working with Pete, is your first time and me sitting down and actually talking like this. I would like to know more about you as well as the audience. So, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. So, again, I'm Coach Kim, and I guess this is about my third full year with Peak. The first year, I just kind of helped out. But I guess my swimming kind of started more actually whenever I was in junior high. I always grew up around the water. We had a lake house, so we were always in the water doing things, but I never really picked up swimming. Then my 7th grade year in our junior high athletics program, you got this award if you did 6 sports. So, of course I needed the award.
So what was the 6th sport, like swimming?
So, I did cross country, volleyball, basketball, track, tennis, and swimming, right? Those would be the 6 different things that you could do. And so I really wanted to get the 6 sports. They had a 6 sport and a 5 sport. So anyways, that was my goal. And I, of course, just kind of walked into swimming like we went and bought a competitive swimsuit because all I had was like play swimsuits, right? So walking into 7th grade, I get in there and I realized that I was kind of good. We were at the very end of the season, there's only maybe 4 swim meets in junior high and a handful of practices. So at the end of the season, we had this one meet, our district meet, and the high school coach approached me and my dad, because my dad was timing or something, and he was like, oh, hey, she's pretty good. Have you ever thought of being on a team or something like that? And I was like, man, I'm just in it for the award, to be honest. And so he was like, well, you should try summer league. I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. So I tried summer league swimming that summer, and I liked it. I was pretty good. And so that was my first year ever. I was turning 12 that summer. So then the next year, again, didn't really do much. They asked me to do a program, which was, they called it Winter League. And so it was really just starting in, I want to say November or December. You would start, so you would have a few months jump start on summer league. So they had contacted me, hey, do you want to do this? I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. I've got nothing else to do. So I did that my 8th grade year. But now looking back on it, what I think the reason that they really did this winter league, there were a lot of high school kids who had kind of dropped out of club swimming. But the high school coach at the time wanted them to, still get 2 practices a day. So they had 2 or 3 lanes of, middle school, anywhere from 5th all the way to 8th graders. And then the rest were high school kids. So I did that, did summer league one more time, and then realized, okay, yeah, this is kind of for me. At that point, my dad reveals the fact that he was actually a swimmer. So he like went to the Junior Olympics and all these things. Like he was actually pretty good, but he was very much growing up. He wanted us to, find what we love to do, make our own decisions. And so, but once I, expressed, okay, I kind of want to do this, he was like all gung ho because he's like, yes, finally. So it was kind of cool. Then my 9th grade year, again, I'd not done club yet. I'd just done 2 summer league years and a couple months of winter league. And so I go into my freshman year swimming and, wind up making varsity because it was what
was the tryout look like?
So it was 10 100s was the set that you had to do. And then there was, I want to say, I don't remember if it was 50s kick or 25s kick, some sort of kick set. And then the way it basically worked is they had an interval, which I didn't really know how to do intervals because I
So
never
what is
really,
interval?
right. So like say lane 8 or whatever, which was your fastest lane, ended up being on say 10 100s on a 110.
Right.
Okay, and then the next one was a 120.
Right.
And then 130. Right.
All the way.
And then right. Well, no. So for varsity, the cutoff was a 140. Like so they had a couple lanes which were on that.
140 is pretty decent.
Yeah. So I didn't really know what I was doing, so I just tried to stay with the person in front of me, and like I figured if I stay on their toes, then I would make it.
Hopefully they know what they're doing.
Right. So lo and behold, I somehow eke it out to be on the team. So I guess then we also had you had to do time trials, so you had to time a 50 free, 100 free. And then you could pick stroke or distance. So I swam breaststroke at the time because that's what I knew. So I timed a 50 and 100 breaststroke. And you had to make certain times. So for varsity, the time cut was they just took whatever would have been top 8 at district, and you had to make that time. So it changed every year. So that way you would have scored points at district. Now, of course, it would be faster or slower or whatever, but that's just pretty much how he did it. So I go into varsity practice. We're like a month in. We're getting ready for our first meet. And, the coach, he knows me, but he doesn't really know me. So I've just been trying to make it at practice. I'm figuring out what sets are, how to do intervals. And, lo and behold, he puts me in the 100 fly. I had never really done fly in my life.
That's a big challenge.
Right. So I'm looking at the kid next to me, and I'm trying to figure it out, And since it was a dual meet, it's not like there were 5 heats of the 100 fly, right? So I'm all right, cool, let's do this. So upon watching me do the 100 fly, the coach was like, have you ever really done fly? That looked pretty rough. I was actually, no. I asked my friend Jessica right before we swam this, really how to do butterfly. So that was kind of my realization that if I was going to do it, I needed to, kind of do it with fidelity. And so I told my dad, I was I never want to feel that way, going into a race. I just don't know. And so he was well, the fastest way to kind of catch up would be to join a club team. And so that's what I did. I basically just went where the rest of my friends on the team were going. So which was with the Stars, or Star. It was with Coach Eddie Adams. Not that I was in his lanes to begin with, to be honest. But so I started that kind of midway through my freshman year. So since I went midway through, they had a thing where you could basically do the practice team, if that, kind of makes sense. So I didn't really do any USA swim meets or whatever that season, just trying to get caught up. And so I didn't really start, club swimming until I was a sophomore. you know, as far as competing and things. So like I missed all of the age group stuff, right? So I jumped in at 14 because I have a summer birthday. So
you say you miss it, but it's more like, you know, you have a, you know, a lower start and like a more enjoyable start than
Right.
most of the kids now, you know, like some of them started USA swimming when they were 6, if not 5.
Right.
And then like when they are junior high and stuff like that, they've been in the sport for like 10 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so like a good thing also was that I never really you know, saw those moments of, gosh, I'm going, you know, half a year and I'm not dropping time
Right.
because it was just so fresh, you know,
Right.
which could be frustrating to, you know, others who are like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to drop, you know, 2/10
second,
for,
right.
you know, a year. And
Right.
like this girl over here, like I was telling my daughter when she just did her first 500 last year, and then she did it again, like, I don't know, maybe a month or so
Right.
later, and she dropped like 30 seconds. I was like, yeah, man, I did the 500. Actually, the first time I ever did a 500 was probably my junior year of high school, right? Like, first time ever. And we've got like 10-year-olds trying, 9 and 10-year-olds. That's the
Right.
goal. But first time I did it, and I was like, okay, well, I didn't really like know the pacing. So the next time I do it, I drop 45 seconds.
Right.
Next time I do it, like 30. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, that's the race to do, man. You just feel so amazing, you know, and all these other kids. But anyway, so that's kind of like where I went with that. Continued to do summer league stuff. And then going into college, you know, my plan was changed a bit. So over the summer, I started to kind of get sick. They couldn't really figure out what was going on, which took me away from the pool. And since, again, I was already kind of behind in that kind of sense, you know, looking at where health-wise I was going, they couldn't really figure out what was going on. And then looking at, you know, my future, and I'm like, okay, Olympics is not my goal. Like, to be honest, it just wasn't. And so I kind of decided, you know, I'm going to instead focus more on school. But swimming had just done so much for me. I wanted to really stay in it. And my freshman year of college, ended up having some neck surgery, which took me out more of swimming. And so it was just not going to be feasible to do any kind of swimming at an elite level. So then I, you know, stopped with the whole USA swimming, things like that. But I stayed in summer league. I went back that summer, and because I had a summer birthday, like I could still swim. But because of my surgery and stuff like that, it was a little bit more difficult. So like it really like resonated with me that like my swimming part was done.
Yeah.
And so I tried to kind of figure out, okay, well,
What's next?
where does swimming go for me? And so it just so happened that the next year my high school coach approached me and he's like, hey, Kim, you know, he was going to have some cancer treatment. And he's like, I don't see myself being able to do a summer team. It's hot. It's every day, you know, like, would you be able to, or willing to kind of take over this team? It was very small. It was like maybe 65 kids summer team. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like, you know, I had swam on it that summer. And so I was like, that's cool. And so it just kind of like fell into my lap. And I just never stopped coaching it. So like 15 years later, I finally stepped away from that team, mainly because I moved to another part of the town. And it was like a 45-minute one-way trip to coach. And so it wasn't feasible anymore. I had a child, and I was like, I can't really do all this. So in the new community where I lived, we were just literally going around looking at stuff. And I wandered into what was a swim practice, and I was like, hey, is this a team? And they're like, well, kind of, like we just kind of threw some stuff together. I was like, oh, so like you need a coach. And basically the team will say owner or whatever, because it's nonprofit, but board president will say, he was like, hey, like literally next year, because they only had 1 week left of the season, they were like, hey, like next year, literally, like give me your contact information. So the next year I started coaching there. I was in a different league, of course, so I went from a league that allowed club swimming, which was like the leagues that I had been a part of, into a more recreational league. And so that's where I'm at now. This will be I guess I've coached there 6 years. So this summer will be my 7th year. And it's just throughout that, keeping that summer league vibe really helps me to renew like the love that I have for the sport, because that's where I first fell in love with the sport, right? So to see kids really like come from literally not knowing swim at all to making it their sport, you really see that in a summer league.
That's a good
And
transition.
so that really helps. And then trickled in through there, I coached high school. I coached with the coach that had got me into summer league, who was actually my high school coach. So, my full-time job is teaching math. And so, because, chemical engineering was hard. So, chemical engineer dropout. But anyways, the first year that I went back, again, my high school coach was having some issues still with cancer and everything, and so he kind of needed somebody, not to say he couldn't run it on his own, but it always helps to have someone there. So I just assistant coached. It was very low key, just one period of the day, unlike 2 periods where most coaches do and everything. So it was really like a helping out situation. And then from there, the next year, I, full on coached with him. I did that. He left. We got another coach. So I coached from 2006, 2007, that school year, until 2012 when I got married. And then life just kind of was like, okay, what need some time. So I took a little time away from the high school realm, coaching swimming and diving, and just stuck again with the summer league. Then when I moved teams, summer teams, and I moved houses, like, locations, I then moved school districts. And so, not that I was fully ready to go back to coaching high school, but that was a way to get into the high school. So I knew the high school coach of the school that I'm at now. I had coached with him in my previous league, summer league. And so I had known him for years, and he was like, hey, you want to come help me out?
Right.
It was a brand new school, so the program was still building, right? So it was a lot more low key than, coming into something that was super successful and had been for years. We were really just getting it going. And so I was like, sure, I can do that. And I really did enjoy that, but COVID was definitely a game changer. And with 2 little kids, I was going from 5 a.m. until 7:30 at night, and it just wasn't right. It wasn't feasible. And then coming off of COVID, my oldest daughter decided that she wanted to start to swim, because she had been at the pool. Like, she lived there basically with me, coaching. And so she's like, oh, I want to do that. And so with her needing or wanting to do that after school, there was just not enough time. So I kind of stopped. I made the decision to stop coaching high school. But the last year that I coached high school, I actually coached John's oldest daughter. So that kind of opened the door to peak.
Right.
My daughter ended up doing 1 year of summer swim team with me. And then she decided, okay, yeah, I like it. So I was like, okay, well, do you want to do a club team?
Right.
So she's like, yeah, I want to do that. So
And everything else just
right
was
when
like,
when I
right,
stepped on
just
deck,
wanted-
Coach John was like, "Oh, this is interesting that you're here. Do you want to help out?" I was like, well, "I'm not really ready to like coach. Like I had just kind of left that, and I was like, but I could help."
Right.
And then like
Yeah.
we got to the first champ meet, and helping really turned into coaching. So that's pretty much all she wrote, and now I'm here.
Yeah, no, but like from your story, like the love and passion is there, and it just fall right back in. And even though if you take a break here and there, and swimming is already your passion, it's just gonna fall back at some point. And now I think your girls is the same way. They started young, but they want to do it themselves. I don't think you or your child have like the pressures from the parents, like, oh, you have to perform and whatnot, right? I mean, even though they are really, really fast right now.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is because I never did, like I said, the age group stuff,
No.
right? So although I've been involved in things firsthand, my kids are doing it for the first time, if that kind of makes sense. So going to tags, going to age group champ, like those things, that was never my story because I was too old, right? So the excitement in all of those things, and I think it's really neat for them to feel like it's their own thing also. Oh, that mommy never did this. I'm like, yeah, and I didn't. And then it's also a good bonding with my dad, because he did the young part of it, and it's really been a way for them to find something to bond over. Any sport is like that, I think one of the main things about sports or anything in that kind of a realm is that it's not just about the medal. It's not just about the time. It's a whole life situation, right? The reason I keep going back to swimming is not because, oh, I was in the Olympics, because I wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I was NCAA champ, because I wasn't. It was community. It was a group of friends. It was, learning responsibility, learning how to deal with, things that were upsetting, how to be happy for yourself, but then comfort others who aren't, that all of those things. And so that, I think, is the real story of swimming, that regardless of where you are in it, fast, not fast, whatever, coach, athlete, all of that can be done through that sport.
Yes.
So.
And I mean, I have a lot of friends still nowadays, still talking to them 15, 20 years later from just practicing swimming with them for like a few seasons back then. Yeah, it's a great time. And, like swimming or any sport, like the skill that they teach you, like Coach Nali said sometimes, I mean, is give her the skill of like scheduling, which she uses pretty much every day now.
Right.
Right. So then, do you talk about swimming with your child at home? Like, is their life surrounding by swimming talk, or is it like you let them try everything else if they
Right.
want?
So yeah, we tried dance, but then they changed the color tutu, and so that was all she wrote on that. We've tried dance, we've tried gymnastics, we've tried soccer, we've tried t-ball, and now my oldest is kind of getting into a little volleyball. And so it's one of those things where, I want them to do something, right? Because I think that they need to be involved somewhere, and they need to have that, responsibility and a team depending on you, or someone depending, like those kind of things, keeping a schedule. And so that doesn't matter. I don't really care where it is. It happens to be swim because that's what they're choosing. As far as I don't really talk about swim at home, mainly because I try to separate the two, especially for the years that I did coach my daughters. With my youngest, I'm in the transition stage, right?
Okay.
But, when we are at practice, I'm Coach Kim.
Okay.
And trying to get them to understand, okay, what I say as Coach Kim is constructive criticism and it's, helping you learn, things like that, apart from mom,
Okay.
right?
What do they call you at practice? I didn't know this.
Oh, well, most of them call me Coach Kim because I really just don't respond. Like I'm not in tune to hearing mom
Right.
on deck, right? But most of the time it's not, it's odd. Like I'll see them come in before, they say something. But, we've kind of made those lines, and I will say that with my oldest, it's even easier now. Last year was pretty much the big transition year, and Coach Cheryl and Coach Natalie were really good about helping me make that transition, right? And I talked with Coach Ann a lot because, her and Cheryl both had kids that, swam, and they had to kind of find those lines. And, so just meets where, they say, no, just be in the stands and be mom, or, those kind of things helps me to kind of break away. And so now it's pretty much I'm mom to her.
Okay.
I just happen to know about swimming, right? So if she comes to me and asks things, or if it's after a race or something like that, and she comes to me, sometimes even like at the last meeting, I'm like, okay, do you want mom or do you want coach? And she appreciates that, and she knows if she does, want me to say something about it, or what really it's more to the point of, our talk is like after she's been to practice, how did practice go? What was your favorite part? those kind of things, which is more mom than it is, coach. So I try to keep that, there if she's getting frustrated in things, instead of me trying to tell her, maybe I'll go find something. Well, clearly I'm going to watch the YouTube video first or whatever. So I'll watch something, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, this is what she needs to see. So I'll show her that. But really just encouraging her. She's pretty shy. Although she seems outgoing, she's pretty shy to ask. And so encouraging her to be like, well, go ask your coach. Well, say something, and so that's one of the lessons that you learn in sports is how to advocate for yourself, how to speak up, how to learn, right? So she's also at a young age, and this is in school also, like teaching her how to learn. When I don't know something, how do I go find that out, right? So teaching her that your coach is your teacher, just like in school. If you don't know, you raise your hand. So if you're not sure about something, if you don't understand the set, if you don't know, I'm frustrated because I feel like at the end of the race it was this. Okay, well, ask your coach, what do I do about that? Those kind of things. So really steering her in that direction. My youngest just literally could care less. I mean, she's young, right?
She's like what, 8?
Yeah, so she just turned 8. So I mean, like at the last meet, right? And she has what I would say was a hard race to watch.
Oh.
And she's like, oh my gosh, that was my favorite one. I was killing. I was like, and you were. Yes, you were. So, like just knowing their mental state too. Yeah. But yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. It's nice to have that balance. I have, kind of a similar situation when I'm doing swim lessons. So I always said I have like instructor voice and then I have coaching voice. It's way different. And sometimes like the other instructor, they surprised how I can like turn it up on like certain kids
Right.
to like, you know, make them do stuff in the water when they just, you know, want to play a lot of time. So yeah, it nice to balance that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then on the second part of the episode today, we're gonna talk more about, you know, summer league structure, you know, the league, the division, and all of that.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you. So we get back to the main reason I invite you here to learn more about the summer league program, because again, for me, growing up, swim lessons straight into high competitive swimming environment, I never have a chance to know about, you know, a hobby or something like that until I moved to the US. I learned, oh, there's a whole other side of swimming, which is summer league, where you learn, you started, you have fun and stuff like that. So from your own experience, the summer league, where does it started, and you know, how's a team actually function, and how long the season? Because again, for competitive, I have no breaks and whatnot.
Right. So I've actually been involved in like two different styles of summer league. One style of summer league, which is where I started, allows USA swimmers to basically be on the team as well. That is a little bit different, mainly at the competition side, because you will have swimmers of a much higher caliber in there. It doesn't really affect your practice or your things like that, because most of the times they don't show up for practices. They just show up for a swim meet. But so they have some teams, like I said. So the first league that I was with for 15 years coaching, 3 years swimming, or 4 years swimming, it was CCSL, which is the Clear Creek Swim League, I believe. And they do allow club swimming. Okay. They start their tryouts typically somewhere around the end of April. Typically either the last week of April or the first week of May is their first practice. And like the league will decide when the actual first start day is. Okay. And that league typically goes through the week after the 4th of July. Okay. Right? So you've got, say, probably about 10 to 12 weeks. Right. So the league that I'm in now, which is the South Houston Summer League program, and Southwest Houston, sorry. So it's like kind of around the Sugar Land area. They are a recreational league. So the difference between that is they do not allow any club swimming. So for example, my youngest daughter swam for the league last year. So they have a specific day on which you have to unattach from your club team. You cannot go to a practice, you cannot go to a meet, none of those things. And then when the season is done, then you can pick back up with your club team. So that is a little bit different. You still see remnants of at the competitions, because for example, like my daughter had been swimming all year, so clearly she's going to be a little bit quicker into the practice kind of situation. And just because she's not swimming with them for 2 months doesn't mean that she's lost all that practice ability, those kind of things. But they do make you basically pick a team. Okay. The reason they do this is because with your teams that allow club swimmers, like I said, you'll go to practice and you will see, like, you might be down 45 kids because they all are swimming on a club team. Then you go to a swim meet and all of a sudden you have 150 kids.
And who are you?
Right. And the coaches don't know you. They don't really know how to coach you, you know. I know one of the big things in USA Swimming, and especially on our team Peak, you know, come talk to the coach before and after. They'll give you those tips, those reminders, because they see you every day in practice. They know exactly where you're at. So you kind of lose that if you have a swimmer who never really practices with you but just shows up for the meets, right? So that's a downside to that. The upside is that you have basically ringers come in and you win the swim meet, those kind of things. But I kind of feel both ways. The downside to having a club swimmer also at the meet, it takes away from the pure recreational swimmer, those kids who are only there, they've been only swimming for 10 weeks. Right? And it takes that opportunity for a relay. It takes that opportunity for, a win away from them when they've never seen these people. They didn't know, okay, that's an expectation. They just jump in and, So I see either way. And the league I'm in right now, which is a recreational league, they start, again, pretty much the same timeline. They start at the end of April. I think it's normally like April 28th or 29th, whatever that is. And then it goes until we finish. Literally last year we swam on July 3rd. So right before the, 4th of July holiday weekend or week. So again, it's like a 10-week program. So also the leagues are separate in the sense of what they swim. So for the league I'm in, that's recreational. They allow 25s.
All ages? Or?
No. So from 10 and under, now they are split different age groups, but 10 and under, you swim 25s. So that's your 6 and under age group, your 8 and under age group, your 9 and 10-year-olds. They all swim 25s only. You're allowed to swim 2 individual events in a meet and up to 2 relays. The relays are also 25s. And those are on a Monday night, right? So you get in there, you get the meet, you're done. Now the other league that does allow club swimmers, which it's really an advantage. At the 8 and under, you do 25s, and then at the 9-10, you start 50s, and you can do the 100 IM, and I believe maybe the 100 freestyle, right? And then as you go to the 11 and 12s, it's hundreds of, or
50,
no, it's still 50s.
Yeah.
And then when you go to the 13 and ups, you can do hundreds, and they even have a 200 freestyle. At the recreational league that I'm in, even the 11 and ups, 50s, you max out. You're never doing 100 of anything other than the 100 IM. And that's all the way up to high school. So one advantage of that, which I've really capitalized on, is, especially with the high school swimmers, I typically get those swimmers who have kind of stepped away from club, whether it's because they just graduated and so they're not going to swim later, so they're a senior, or they do another sport. So I have, like, my assistant coach last year, he is a pole vaulter. He's actually committed to a D1 school for pole vaulting, but he swam summer league, and he's great with kids. He knows the strokes, and he can still be competitive in a 50, right?
Yeah.
Versus once you get
for boys,
right, once you get into like 100, then it kind of makes the jump. Like, you had to have been swimming to be able to maintain and keep up. So that allows those who do other sports to still be involved in swimming in that 10-week kind of commitment area. And maybe they go do baseball later. Maybe they're a volleyball player, whatever the case may be. But they still get that time of swimming, and they're still very good and competitive because the distance is so short. I mean, I say this not trying to, be any kind of way, but like, anybody can do a 50. Anybody can do a 25, right? Now, you might not be first place at the champ meet. Okay, great. But in a dual meet, you probably get third.
I mean, even myself, right? 10 years, no practice, I can get in the water and still do a sub 30 on the 50 fly. Right. So, yeah.
So, the setup obviously is different. I think that the league that allows club swimming has some of those longer events because they're kind of knowing, they're knowing that some of these kids have been training all year, right? Whereas if you're purely a summer league swimmer, meaning that you do other sports or the only time you enter the water is in April.
Right.
You're not ready to do 100, a 200.
And I would
those
think
things.
that's set up that way to hopefully pull the year-round kids to
Right.
those longer events
Exactly.
to give the actual summer league kids
Exactly.
a competitive feel on a shorter event.
Right. So basically, so I'll speak to that recreational side because that's just what I've been doing the last, say, 5, maybe 6 years. Well, I took a year off for COVID. So 5 years. So we basically start that last week of April. We have our tryouts. Our tryouts is basically insurance purposes,
Oh.
right? So
You can
can you safely get to the other side of the pool
Okay.
on your stomach, putting your face under the water? It does not have to be a legal, or I mean, we say freestyle legal, like what is that? But it doesn't have to be technical freestyle, but you have to show me that you can put your face under. You can bring your face out to take a breath. You can put your face back under. Is it breathing to the side, which we would love? No. But, and that you are not hanging on the wall or on a lane rope. You can go the 25 distance
Without any
untouched.
assistance. Okay.
Right. And let's not be afraid that you are going to
Right.
not make it. Then the second part of the tryout is you have to then be on your back
Okay.
because some swimmers or some kids in general have issues being on their back, equilibrium issues, things of that sort. And so again, it's a safety issue, right? I don't want to send kids down the pool and one of us turn our heads and then they're
Right.
sinking. So you have to show that you can stay on your back for the duration of a 25. If all you do is kick, great. If you float, great. If you use your arms, even better. But just so the safety wise, right? Now, when you get into like our 11 and ups, I make you go a 50. So you have to go down and back.
Right.
You can stop on the wall. You can't get out. Normally it's like after 10 to 15 seconds, okay, go ahead and push off, that kind of thing, on your stomach and on your back. But there's no requirement of knowing or ever even heard of breaststroke or butterfly. We will teach you those things. If you know them, great, but you know, you're not required to do any of those things. But that also gives me perspective as to where you'll be in the practices, that kind of thing. Practices are typically done by age group,
Okay.
but then within the pool ability of that age group. So depending on how many 6 and under, sometimes the 6 and under practice is all on its own. Some years we only have like 5, 6 and under, so they're just a lane.
Okay.
But sometimes it's
20.
if it's 20, that's a whole practice.
Right.
They normally only get 30 minutes because their attention span and also their ability puts them at a 30-minute practice.
When you say 20 kids, I would imagine it's like, what, 8 different levels?
Not really. Like, you'll be surprised. So a lot of the times our 6 and unders they've graduated from Houston Swim Club or they've graduated from Aqua Tots, right? So they safely know how to swim.
Okay.
They've done their swim test and that's about it. So because it's a 10-week, season, you have to be very, very aware and very intuitive as far as looking and being like, okay, no, I see they could move, they could do something. So like that first 2 or 3 days of practice is very integral because I'm looking to see, okay, have they really never been shown any of this and what's their mental capability for understanding?
How many practice do they have a week?
Well, so for ours, we go from Monday to Friday for the month of May.
Every day?
Every day you choose, right? So that being said, right, you might have a kid who they are able to come pretty far because they go 5 days a week
Good.
for 10 weeks.
That's a lot of practice
Right.
offered.
But here's
That's
the thing.
nice.
Right. So here's the thing also. I might have a handful on my entire team that come all of those days
Okay.
because these kids, they're star testing which is like their end of the school year testing. My high school kids, they're doing AP testing. They're finishing up school. A lot of them are finishing up soccer. A lot of them are finishing up baseball. So I really don't see an influx until like probably the third week of practice.
And then some more travel.
Right. So then you really get 2 good weeks of like everyone's there and it's crazy town. And then now it's summer. So like, okay, this family of 4 is now gone.
Yeah.
And those kind of things. So then it gets more sporadic. But that's also my thought is, and this is just something silly, like me and my husband always say, you can always do anything for a month. Yeah. You can do anything for 30 days. So like, yes, it is very crazy for the month of May. But if I'm wanting these kids who have never swam to get into a swim meet on the first day of June, like I need to be available to help them every day. Yeah. And especially those little ones, it's a motor skill you cannot mimic anywhere else other than in the water. And it's too cold to be in the water, right? Just like if I had a pool in my backyard, right? And they don't have the skill. Right, a junior high or a high school kid, they'll get in there, right? Even upper middle school, right? Upper elementary, they'll go jump in the water, those kind of things. But like for someone that young, all they've known is somebody teaching them in a 3 or a 4 person group,
right? Like holding hands and moving them around.
So we really have to push them a little bit more. So. The only way it really works also is I have a great group of high school helpers, junior coaches, and we certify them for lifeguarding. We pay for them to be on the team or whatever. Those, like, we cover the fees. The only thing they have to pay is like the $15 the league fee for insurance, right? But I do the first month, the month of May, is all volunteer hours. Almost all of our high school kids are involved in National Honor Society, Student Council, like all of these clubs that require volunteering. They also get cords at the end of their high school that for different volunteers. So they put in the hours in May for volunteering. Right. And then in June, when they could be going out of town, and they could be, if they're choosing to come here and continue to help, then we do pay them.
Okay.
But that also, I tell them, your tryout for coaching is the month of May. Yeah. So if you show up and you just stand in the water and the kids don't receive you well because you're not even talking to them, you're not, always willing to help, those kind of things, then I'm not going to choose for you to be one of the coaches who's at the practice getting paid. Right. So the good thing about that is the crazy month, I have the most help. Right. And they're really gung-ho about it because they want to,
the excitement
really
of the
show.
Kids,
yeah. So that being said, so we have 6-lane pool, obviously. I basically will not hold a practice if there's not a coach in each lane. Oh. So if we only have 5, we're only running 5 lanes.
Like what, 5 to 6 kids a lane, if not more.
Right. So on a bad day, there's going to be 8. Okay. Right, but it's not going to be the 6 and unders. It's not going to be the 8 and unders. It would be that 9, 10. That's typically the very, very integral stage of I'm trying to figure out what I like. You're like a 3rd or a 4th grader at this point. Yeah. And you're trying to decide if you like to swim that for a team, those kind of things. So that age of a swimmer, I'm okay having 1 coach per lane with 7 kids. Okay. That's just how it is. And when I say per lane, this is where it differs from club, right? My swimmers, as well as myself, are in the water every day. Okay. So I think a huge part of Summer League is just what I got out of Summer League, the community, right? And there's really something to be said, and I really see this again with my own children. They think high school kids are just so cool. right? So them being in the water already, like hands down, they want to do it.
Yeah.
Right? They will do anything for one of those high school kids. Like they just will. More than they would do for me, more than,
Yes.
And so them being in the water every day,
Yes.
I had a girl literally every day she would cry. And one of our junior coaches every day would get them to stop. I mean, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
If that coach wasn't there, I would tell the mom, hey, so-and-so is not going to be here today. And sometimes that was really the deciding factor if her child would come to practice, because it's just that bond, right?
Yes.
I would have, I would say probably half of my junior coaches are boys, because boys mentoring, elementary school boys, like that's just something, like they think it's cool and oh my gosh, it's a challenge and it's these kind of things. And I think it also fosters the competition, not amongst each other, but amongst the high school kids. So we'll say, okay, coach so-and-so, they're going to race you. Like, we know they're going to. And I'll tell the high school coaches, no, okay, I'm not going to win, or I'm going to do it to the very last minute. And the kids really eat that up. So the idea in Summer League is to make it so fun, they don't realize that they're working and they don't realize that they're learning. And, when we pull them out to go over to the kind of deep end to do like a little technique session or whatever, they're more excited to get to go over there with coach so-and-so. Oh my God, I want to go. They don't realize, well, you're going over there because you don't know how to do it. They think it's really cool. So it's one of those jobs that you have to be 110% on from the moment you step in until the moment that you leave. Bring the high energy, all those kind of things. And I'm not saying that, you have to do a dog and pony show or those kind of things. But my real thought is I only have 10 weeks to show them how much I love the sport and how much they can love the sport. And that's all aspects of it, right? So them doing something that they don't know how to do, them losing a kickboard race, them winning a kickboard race, right? So changing it up so it's not the same thing that they did yesterday and the day before, because they don't have, in club swimming, you have that intrinsic being able to push, where I could do the same set every Tuesday. Okay, it's the same set, whatever, and it's, maybe it's monotonous, but I can push through. A Summer League kid doesn't get that. They want something new every day. And it works out because it's only 10 weeks, right? But I really think that when you're in that recreational kind of arena, also being like, hey, it's awesome that this is another thing you're good at. Or you can be like, well, it's fine that you're not awesome at this, because you also have baseball and you also have soccer, but hey, we can also do this, And so kind of bringing it along that, I think really helps them intrinsically get that. Right, we have our end champ meet kind of situation, which, it's great to be there. And definitely the ones that are considering going to a year-round team need to be there to see the big atmosphere. So we have 20 teams in the league, and they all are at this champ meet, right? And you had to be the top 2 in the different divisions. So we have 4 divisions. So you go to the smaller meet, you have to be top 2, and then the next top 8 goes. So it's very much like a championship series, right? But you go to the big natatorium, and it's like, it's not we're at a community pool and we're diving off the side. There's a block. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. So that's a good eye-opening experience for them to see, okay, if you want to do year-round, this is a little bit of an insight to what year-round is. But some of them, they never get there. Oh, I'm going to go on a cruise, or I'm going to go on vacation. And that's cool, because what they're in it for is that 10-week recreation.
But that sounds like a good transition, though, right? Because the instructor, the swimming instructor, they're in the water with the kid.
And not all teams do that. I would say that probably of our 20 teams in the league, maybe half of them do.
And then the year-round swim coach, right? A little intimidated, like walking on neck, yelling, and
Right.
look a little rough, right?
Right.
So that little transition of all right, a little softer transition in there, a little bit hand-on. It's nice. That's how I feel.
Yeah. And I think, so I also make all of I offer the opportunity for all of the high school kids to swim at the meets because
This is showcase.
I mean, the little kids, they literally will line up on the side to
Yes,
watch
I love
coach
that.
go
Yes,
against coach.
yes. And they cheer for each coach. Yes, I love that.
And so in practice, we'll have a cheering competitions to see, okay, whose lane can cheer on the other lane.
Yes.
We're like, how cool is it to, when you come up for a breath and breaststroke, to only hear the cheer, the crowd and all that. And so to kind of bring that atmosphere in, they need to see that. This is definitely not summer league, kind of situation, but we do with our league, we get done before July 4th, right? So then the team that I'm with, because they are under a bigger sports umbrella than just the league, we offer, for those who want to continue for the month of July, to like August. So it's literally a month, and then we only go 3 times a week, and it's 8 and under, 10 through 12, and then 13 and up. Right, and it's basically just practice, right? So to be able to do what we call July swim, and that we say, okay, this would be like if you're thinking about I want to go to a club.
Try it out.
You need to do July swim, because July swim will be, there's no coaches in the water.
Okay.
We give you some sets, so we have to remember it, right? You have to be able to, in the 10 weeks, you had to become legal in all of the 4 strokes. You have to be able to competently swim a 50 of those strokes. Even my 8 and unders. If you can't do a 50, like nobody's walking back and forth. Because it's typically more like a club team where it's me and my assistant coach, or me and 2 junior coaches, and that's it. No one's in the water.
Yeah.
It's just to maintain for that month before you go try out for a club team.
Yeah.
And so that's where we've really seen the success as far as transitioning them into club. Because it's not as shocker.
Right.
So I would say that those who've done that July swim and then go try out versus those who end, June 29th, don't do July swim and then go try out for a club team, they're more shocked at what a club team is.
And that also helps for the parents though, because right, like the parents again with the instructor of the swim lesson, they feel like they're more hand-on and stuff like that, and then into the year-round team, it feels like the coaches doesn't do much, right? Like just like standing there and stuff like that. But the year-round coaches will look at the swimmers' difference and stuff like that. So then, how is the league and like the division and stuff like that set up? Like who set it up, and how is that divided out?
Okay, so the league itself, like they have their own board, they have their own thing like that. The divisions are done by size. So like Division 1, you would have anywhere from I think the cap is 250 kids with more than 1 location. Okay, to be a Division 1 team. To be a Division 2 team, so we were a Division 2 team last year, we had capped ours at 200 with 1 location.
Okay.
And then Division 3, you're anywhere from, say, at a swim meet, you're rostering at least 100 kids. So they go based off of how many swimmers you have in practice and how many you roster at a meet. So like last year, our team, the lowest roster meet that we had was like 112, and the most we had was 193.
So how many meet in that 10-week?
5.
5?
Mondays. 5 Mondays.
So 1 every other week, pretty much.
So we don't start till June, so it's every or I think the last Monday of May, whatever. It's normally right there at that holiday weekend.
Okay.
So either we do it the week before the holiday weekend, or you, like whoever you're swimming against, you have to figure out when you're going to do it because you can't do it on the holiday.
Yeah.
And then every Monday in June. So it's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
For sure. But the good thing is, again, you're only doing 2 strokes. So for example, you know, if I have a month and 2 weeks really to get you into a breaststroke or a butterfly, to be honest. So because the first meet, you're probably going to do free and backstroke. And then I could have you do that again because you'll have that holiday week off. And then I'll have you do it again. Oh, okay. Oh, we got faster.
Yeah.
Yay. Now we need to introduce something else.
Right.
So that we can try something, right? So you really have, say, 6 weeks to get them into a breaststroke or a butterfly.
Yeah.
But I will say that my 6 and unders only do free and back, unless you have an outlier. We had one last year. She's actually on the club team, who is able to, in 6 weeks, figure out one of the other strokes. But it's typically because they either have an older sibling or someone else is helping, you know, on the weekend, those kind of things. They're going to a private coach, something like that. My 8 and unders, the goal is that they are able to do a freestyle, a backstroke with fidelity. So like they're competitive in those. And then they're able to do one of the other 2 strokes competitively. And possibly the 4th stroke, at least legally.
Okay.
Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes it's until they're 9. But again, it's the motor skill. I'm trying to teach you, have you mentally understand and learn a brand new motor skill. Like, when else do you do the motions of butterfly in an everyday?
Right.
You don't. You really don't. So for them to train their body to do something like that and to be strong enough to complete it is really tough to do in 6 weeks. So typically that's going to be when you're 9 to be able to physically do it.
So then how's the environment at the meet feels like? It probably electric and like totally different from
it's completely different. So it's really fun, like, to be honest.
The excitement of the kids, the parents,
right.
you know, and like probably the junior coaches.
Right. So and it literally just goes so fast, to be honest, because you know you start them at like say 4:00 is warm ups, and you got to be done by 9:00 because it's dark and the lights are coming on in the pool, and that, like, it is what it is. So you've got to get every age group from age 5 years old all the way to 18 swim. Right. So they do very similar to when we do an outdoor swim meet. They have their tents. One of the volunteer positions is a tent mom, as you will. So they have one person in charge of that age group. So we'll have like a 6 and under girls tent, a 6 and under boys tent. And they are in charge of those kids in walking them to the ready area. So a lot of them, if they're 8 and under, you walk the whole team. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
Like the whole team's coming to support you, even if you're not going to swim, because you've got one mom, right? Or one dad or one guardian, we'll say. So they walk them over. You've got a ready area. They're lining them up. Again, this is all of our junior coaches. So we put a junior coach basically on the in-between from the tents to the ready area. Okay, making sure. So they're looking at the heat sheet. They're making sure that everybody's walking in. And then we've got junior coaches who are helping line up. And then they go onto their ready benches, right? Very similar to like the dots at a club meet. And then they are walking onto lawn chairs, basically. There are no blocks. You're not allowed to do blocks. And so they've got all the timers at the other end. We've got the way we position our coaches. I'm either on the end where the kids are diving from, or I'm at the end receiving them afterwards. And then my assistant is at the other side, right? And then I normally have 1 or 2 junior coaches with me. They have 1 or 2 junior coaches over here. So, I mean, we're all spread out. And then, of course, we have the cheer section. So we have a junior coach basically in charge of getting everyone to cheer.
Okay.
And so they swim their event, they get out, they literally announce right there. First place, lane 5, second place, lane 3. So it's an immediate feedback for them. And if they got DQ, they hold it up, they say the lane, they're like participation, lane 6. And they literally go and they get their ribbon right there. So for the little kids, it's that immediate feedback.
Okay.
And they really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Then that also clears the deck a bit for the high schoolers to now swim.
So that's why, that's why when some of the kids go into the meet, they're like, "Oh, did I win? Did I not?" Right. So that's where.
So the transition from, a rec team to a club team. One, they think that they win if they win their heat, because that's what happens.
Right.
So, and they don't understand really that. The faster you are, the faster heat you're in. And so then it was harder because, in a summer league, you might never swim against the same person ever on your team because there's only 5 meets. And, if they were on vacation, now they're not, whatever. And so, for example, like my daughter, one year, she just started, she was 6, swam against my other daughter who was 8. They were all in the same first heat.
Yeah.
And then my youngest daughter was like, "Oh, I got a 6th place." Well, yeah, you just went against your sister who's
older, swim longer.
Where if you would have been in the next heat, you would have gotten first. So there's a little bit of that explanation there, but they really don't understand when all the heats are together and you don't get immediate ribbon or immediate feedback like that. So that is one of the kind of downsides to that.
That's a great introduction, though. I would love to being there, and experience that. But that can be fun at a time. So yeah. So if you've been here to the end of the episode here, leave a like and comments down below. Thank you.